is about the fact that you cannot get a legal case of mental health against psychiatrists into the Royal Courts of Justice or any other court in England.
What do you mean?
Well, what they do is that they only have to bring in one psychiatrist who would give the same appalling treatment to agree with them. If they agree with them, you've lost. Even though you have masses of evidence, even though you're willing to represent yourself in court, you will be liable for the other side's charges, which run approximately £50 to £100,000, beyond the majority of people having disposable to them. Take it into court. You can take anything into court. You can take into court if someone calls you a pleb. There's a lot more interest in that. But if someone tortures you for years with various over-prescribing of drugs, with what should be outlawed as torture, ECT, you cannot take them into court. This is impossible. No win, no fee isn't worth the paper it's written on, because no win, no fee, no case. Because all of no win, no fee lawyers drop the case, even if you can find one who will take it.
We're here today outside the Royal Courts of Justice to highlight the lack of access to legal representation when you're discriminated against because of your mental health problems. And those of us who are black are most likely to be labelled as schizophrenic, to be labelled as violent, and often it's the racism that also drives us mad, because we can't walk down the street without being stopped by the police. So we're here today to be a voice for all the people who are locked up in psychiatric wards. And as women, we have made a fight for women-only psychiatric wards. Those are very often staffed by men nurses. So we still have a lot to achieve in terms of even the basic right to women-only wards. People know that these solicitors have come out to defend legal aid. Legal aid has been cut for a lot of problems that we're facing, including medical negligence cases, welfare rights and everything, housing and things that we need.
Mental health patients have no say at all.
He's been asked to leave as well by the same woman. It's not acceptable.
Communication error. I was taken to a psychiatric unit and sectioned without my knowledge. I was in that hospital for 8 days, and it's the worst 8 days of my life, and it changed my life forever. I wasn't told my rights, so I was in limbo basically. And anyway, on the first morning they broke my arm in 2 places and refused medical attention for 14.5 hours, finally taking me to A&E at 2:30 in the morning. And there was a serious incident report which I knew nothing about, and I wasn't even interviewed in that report. They just took the word of the nurses. And I was really surprised afterwards that no one came to interview me about the broken arm, and I was actually left in the care of the same people that broke my arm. So that was pretty bad.
Justice for people with mental health problems, many of whom are locked up in psychiatric wards And it's very hard to get out because it's decided by the psychiatrist. And women here have described having their arm broken. A woman in our network was restrained with a tea towel over her mouth and she thought she was going to suffocate. Luckily she didn't, and all we could do at the time was phone the ward from outside, speak to the nurse in charge and just show them that she had friends on the outside and they need to be more careful with her. We said that she's a rape survivor and she shouldn't be handled roughly like that. Courts have made things even worse because people can't get access to a solicitor to discuss whether they have a case. We're here to highlight that we need legal representation to uphold our human rights, to be able to get released from psychiatric hospital, to bring a case against the police when we get picked up for acting strangely. And we know that half of all the people who die in police custody have mental health problems, and many of them are people of colour like Sean Rigg, who died in police custody and whose sister is campaigning for justice for him. And we often go and visit women who've been sectioned in psychiatric hospital, who are restrained, who have a tea towel put across their mouth, who are unable to breathe, and who need a solicitor to come in, represent them to the psychiatric authorities. Many of us here have fought our individual case as well, when we get picked on because we have mental health problems and we seem to be acting irrationally and strangely. And as we say, we need hugs, not drugs. We remember our colleague Jean Cousins, who very sadly killed herself some time ago, and Speak Out Against Psychiatry is having a vigil at her inquest on the 6th of May. And she fought against the forced drugging and the pharmaceutical and ECT treatment.
Mentioned by the previous speaker, one of the members of Speak Out Psychiatry did get a sentence at the end of a rope, and that was her sentence. This also will, I'm sure, not go to court. The verdict will be out on the 6th of May. We almost know what the verdict will be before it comes out. And this is going on every single day. Not occasionally, not maybe, every day. 1,200 died in Staffordshire. How many people went to prison or even got a £20 fine? None. But at least they got that case into court, even though no one was fired. The GMC, another joke, do not take cases of psychiatrists. They almost never strike doctors off, except for a couple of certain cases. Sexual abuse is one. However, psychiatrists who inadvertently kill their patients walk free, or are promoted, or are moved to another health authority. This is fact, not fiction, this is fact. Survivors Island, Southern Ireland has a movement of survivors much more active than England, and so does Scotland. England lags way behind. Why? Because everyone thinks it's not going to happen to them. Well, 1 in 4. Not many people walking past here today because of the roadworks. A lot of people in the court. Unfortunately, we can't use this mic in the court or even demonstrate in the court.
People here are campaigning for hugs, not drugs, for compassionate support and resources to help our recovery instead of punitive sectioning in psychiatric hospital, forced drugging, and being labelled the rest of our life, which affects our custody of our children, our employment prospects, and everything else.
Suicide listed as 6,000 a year, gross in underestimation. We only hear about it when it is someone famous. That's it. If they're famous, we see it in the paper. All of the people that end up on the tracks or on overdoses or all the other ways, they are the forgotten people.